Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the ForeverrCocoChenel channel podcast. This is our segment that we call Not How You Feeling, but How You Healing. And it is something I'm super excited to start making more episodes on and really beginning to invoke thought and be able to add value. I don't necessarily believe that we always have to have some type of degree or some type of stamp of approval external from our higher selves and our calling to validate our expertise in something. And so if you see the title, you know that we're talking about healing. And so I do want to talk about why healing is so important. And so right now, my mode of transportation that is reliable for me is public transportation. And so a couple of days back after work, I was waiting at the bus stop on my way home, and I love to mind my own business. However, I am naturally a helpful person. I always like to treat people initially how I want to be treated. And so I was sitting at the bus stop and there was a woman who happened to be sitting next to me. And I remember she had her bus pass in her hand as well as a $5 bill. Or how I kind of looked at the situation was maybe she needs change because her bus pass is expired and she's trying to think about how to get this money by tomorrow. I'm joking. She's trying to figure out how to get break this $5 down. After a couple of seconds, minutes or whatever of her like rocking and moving and just looking and just, seeming very flustered, I asked her like, is everything okay? And I was very surprised by her response. So she said no. And that's fair, right? Because not every time when someone asks you, are you okay? Is it the best response to say yes? Because if that's not your truth, you're missing out on opportunity of someone who could possibly help you and or just being the most authentic version of yourself. So I asked her if she was okay. She said no. And then she commenced to talk about certain things that she had experienced when she was 12 years old. She told me about how her grandparents, her grandmother specifically, used to own a church. She told me about something about her being in court all day that day and how things were not. She was very clear, pretty much it's all bad. It's all bad. It's all bad. Things are not getting good in court. Things are not going well. She was going into the fact that he's taking everything. He's doing this. He took the kids. He's taking, this and this and that. And then she kept bringing up, I guess when she was young, her grandmother had passed away. The church, she grew up in the church. She grew up in the church. That's what she kept saying. But she was like a tape recorder, because she would go through all of the things that was going on in her mind and or that had gone on in her life. And then she would go back to square one. It was things that had happened many years ago were still playing a role, one, in her everyday life, and two, it was, holding her hostage mentally. And so I want to talk about why healing is so necessary, because, things are going to happen to us in our everyday life. This is everybody. Everybody is going to experience or witness some level of trauma, right? Or it's just going to be harder to process than other things, whether that is the loss of a loved one because they are no longer here on the 3D plane with us. Or I personally think that if you're in a relationship with someone and you all break up in a way that, one way or another affects you emotionally, I do believe that should be right to, have some time off. Even witnessing things, whether it's happening to you or you're just someone who's experiencing whatever's going on, you're going to see something, experience something, go through something that is going to require you to process it out. And so in this episode, I want to discuss what is healing. And so by definition, healing is to alleviate a person of one's anguish or distress. It is to become sound and healthy again. And it is to correct or put right after an undesirable situation. So to correct or put right, I believe like when we come into this world, for one, I'm not here to preach to y'all, but it is a very good chance that we have memory of previous lifetimes. You don't have to believe in this, or you know what I mean? I'm not here to convert anybody. However, I definitely have experienced things or had to heal things that may not have taken place in this lifetime. Mindsets that I've brought into this lifetime. You know, maybe even seeing other people model, you know, behaviors around me that weren't necessarily mine to begin with, but then it put me in a mindset that needed to be corrected or put right. And then to be being sound, I think that's so deep that the definition states that, because when this person at this bus stop was explaining to me what was going on, you know, in her mind, she was not appearing to be sound. Barely was appearing to be sound when she was quiet. But then when she started to open up about what was going on, you know, becoming and appearing to be unsound, because these things are still plaguing this person's subconscious. And so to become sound again, as a definition of healing, like I just really want us to envision and analyze how deep that is, because some of us are walking around with wounds of our past, right? Whether it's because of our parents, whether it's because of our earliest examples, and maybe certain things that you don't even want to talk about, right? Those things are traumatic. Those things could put you in a mindset that make you have to correct and get back right, you know? And so these all are things that take place before we are consciously even able to create boundaries to defend ourselves against, to defend our subconscious. I want to talk about why is it important to heal. And so when you do heal, as we mentioned, you're putting yourself correct again. You are regaining your sound mind again. You're regaining your spark and your personal power. You're also increasing your self-awareness, as well as, you know, perhaps creating boundaries so that those same traumas, those same, you know, trigger points are not able to be used against you. Okay? Because you may be in a space where no one looks like the person, people, or place where you experienced that first initial trauma. However, you know, because if you're not healing those things control you. And so not healing, it prevents you from being your highest version of yourself. You would still be a shell of the sound and whole version of yourself that perhaps would act on callings, act on your passions, speak up in times where your voice matters. Healing allows you to evolve to your highest potential self. Being able to heal, it helps you to become a more empowered version of yourself, one who doesn't have limits that is imposed on them by these things that plague us, these mindsets that plague us, these mental conversations, you know, the limiting beliefs, you know, and perhaps even other people's voices that told you couldn't do something, you shouldn't do something, you can't do something. It is my opinion that everything we go through and will go through is never meant to be something that limits us from evolving into the next version and the better version of ourselves. It's always been my goal to not let any one specific scenario or situation in my life define the rest of my life. And so healing definitely allows you to do that. When we do heal, our bodies become lighter, our minds become sharper, and our spirits become lifted and unburdened. And I think that's very important, because there's a lot of times, and I don't know if you even are aware of it. However, I personally have witnessed many times where people don't look their age, or people look like they you could see it in their face that they're having a hard time. You could see that life is kicking their ass. Or you could see someone where they look super youthful, they look super bright and bubbly and stuff like that. When someone is burdened by life or burdened by the world that they're living subconsciously and through their trauma, they look like that shit. They look burdened, they look sad, they look mad, they look depressed. It's dark and dreary to be around them. And I know that y'all know how that seems. I know y'all know what that feels like, is to be around somebody who is just a burden to be around. And that comes from them not healing their shit. And so they're carrying it with them. And then they are dampening the scene. They're making the room feel heavy and dark and maybe sad. I know growing up, I had this friend, who every time I would hang out with her amongst my other friends, she was my friend because I inherited her from a family member. I didn't like the way that family member was treating her, and I took her under my wing. But every time I brought her around my actual friends, she would be the elephant in the room because, one, she appeared to be unhappy. Her eyes, she had like really dark, shadows under her eyes, and her body type looked like someone who wasn't caring for themselves. And so how to heal is by taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically. Being able to move your body if you are someone who is an able-bodied person. And I'm not saying if you are not an able-bodied person, you don't deserve to heal and that you cannot heal. If for one reason medically you cannot physically use your body to exert out aggression or to move stagnant energies around while doing exercise, I recommend that you consult with a medical professional. It helps you to feel grounded within yourself and feel healthy. Sometimes people can experience health scares or health problems, and this is a part of what makes them feel unhealed and or is what evolutionized and becomes a disease. Dis-ease in your body is what manifests into disease. And so being able to move your body and to maybe even improve your shape and your strength, it allows you to feel confident about yourself. It allows you to feel accomplished in what it is that you do. It allows you to take pride in how you show up in the world, and it improves the way that your outer appearance looks, which also helps you to attract opportunities. Being able to set boundaries is a huge part of healing. When you're able to understand how certain traumas took place and maybe how you played a part in your experience, perhaps by having a lack of boundaries and then people imposing these traumas onto you, you're able to say like, okay, well, I will show up differently in the next situation, in the next relationship, in the next encounter, in the next friendship, or even in existing relationships, and then allow people to show you how they want to behave and hire, fire, and promote accordingly. Getting exposure to sunlight and fresh air definitely allows you to refresh your body, refresh your mind, and things like that. Meditation is amazing. Pursue hobbies that make you happy, that make you feel valued, that make you feel important, things that keep you busy. Perhaps sometimes when we're going through traumas, we're not necessarily ready to heal at the time that we notice, okay, this is something I need to heal. Perhaps you're not in the space where that healing is going to be most receptive, and that is okay. I believe that is normal. And so if you have hobbies that keep you busy during that time, it's not something that is festering and continuing to, spread into negative self-talk. Maybe it'll keep you away from certain people instead of continuing to be in the spaces of people that are bad for your emotional healing. And so that is another part, is to remove people who are not good for your emotional healing. And be able to be open to new people. And again, all of this does take time, or goes based off of what you are able to handle at that time. One of my favorite parts of healing, or my favorite healing activities, is getting rest, or even spending time alone. And that for me works. Not for everyone does spending time, being in your own space work as a healing tool, because another way to heal is to be around people that you enjoy being around people who are good for your mental health. Do something that you love. Take chances in ways that, if you were limiting yourself, you necessarily wouldn't do, or if you were around people, places, and things that would not afford you that opportunity, whether it's because you're releasing a lack mentality, you're healing a lack mentality, or you're healing from people telling you that you couldn't do stuff, or you're healing from yourself telling you that you couldn't do stuff, or you're healing from having influences around you that, maybe did everything the same way, that wasn't successful. And you're like, why are y'all continuing to do this if you're seeing when Joe Schmo, Larry, and Tom did it, they didn't benefit from it, but you're continuing the process. So if you're breaking out those habits of, role models, of people modeling you negative behaviors and negative results, then you may want to take a chance at your own pace that lets you experience these opportunities and experience the healing of that mindset. My favorite one, and I'm telling you, I was so against forgiveness of others. For me personally, it felt very much so a religious doctrine, like forgive people and holding grudges is like taking poison, hoping the other person, get sick, right? And I think that those statements do ring true. I definitely was resistant to forgiveness. The importance I learned of forgiving is that it allows you to free yourself of that time, that space, and that situation that originally happened. A lot of times if we're holding grudges against people or ourselves, because forgiving yourself is huge as well. When we are holding ourselves and others accountable in that same space for what they did and who they were and who we were and what decisions we made, we're not able to travel past that experience because we're taking that experience with us. Hence, we are a shell or an unwhole part of ourselves because a part of us is still back there. And so forgiving doesn't mean that you need to let those people back into your life. Or forgiving doesn't mean that you have to do the same things you did in that situation. It just means that you love yourself enough that you're willing to let it go and move on and forgive those people, release those people, forgive yourself, and allow yourself to do better the next time. One of my biggest lectures when I talk about self-forgiveness and self-love is that, and self-compassion, because all of those are a part of healing, is that we are so much more compassionate and caring for others than we are ourselves. We will beat ourselves up for something that we did years ago, minutes ago, ages ago. Whereas when we hear someone tell us something that they did or they experienced and, maybe they were the cause of their own suffering, we're like, oh, well, that was who you were. It's not who you are. We would be like, oh, well, everybody makes mistakes. Give yourself that same permission to be forgiven, to make mistakes and to overcome those mistakes and to come out of the situation a better version, more self-aware version than what you came into it being. Shadow work. Not a lot of people talk about this, and we will have our own episode of this. So we don't have to go into the definition, but just for, context here, shadow work is going into those spaces of ourselves that asks ourselves, What is still plaguing me from the past? What is still, what am I still carrying? What's deepening, darkening my spirit? Why is it that I cannot do X, Y, and Z? When it comes to exercising, why am I holding myself back? Who modeled this behavior to me at first? Why am I feeling these ways around certain people and they didn't hurt me? What is going on? Where did this first happen? And really retracting your mind into the history of your subconscious and saying to yourself, what do you need now? In that space where you were, what can I give you in the now that would make this heal? And doing this allows us to, again, be our highest versions of ourselves and not be just a shell of ourselves, because the whole version of ourselves or the other half of ourselves is back there, still grieving the situation, still angry about the situation, still denying the situation. Because that's another part of healing, is that I could not deny certain things happen. Okay, I had to acknowledge that, wow, I made a mistake, or wow, those people did treat me like shit, or wow, this did really affect me. Okay, and then allow myself to process it, whether that means that I cry about it, because that's another healing tool. Or that means I said to myself, okay, well, there's not anything I could do now. In another situation, if it ever happened again, this is how I would behave. If I ever witnessed it being done to anyone else, this is how I would behave. This is how I will speak up. This is how I feel like I would best be able to confront this situation again. And I think that that's a very slept on method of healing, is to say to yourself, I can't change the past, but what would I do now if it were to ever happen again? And then hold yourself to that standard. That's another healing tool. Hold yourself to new standards. If people around you have modeled to you the most worst behavior, or someone with their behavior hurt you with their behavior, why not rise above what you feel like that person didn't rise above? Why not hold yourself to a certain standard that says, you know what, I'm nothing like that person. The people that I want to be around are nothing like those people. And then to vibe on that level, not to fall back into those patterns, because if those patterns hurt you, imagine the piece of crap you would be if you hurt someone else being that type of person. Right? Identify your strengths, your weaknesses. Don't deny the weaknesses that put you in those positions where those traumas were able to happen, whether it's because you did something or you gave someone the open door to do it to you. Your strengths. Okay, well, this is what I am good at. Again, this is why I would never let that happen again, because this is who I am. I'm strong in who I am, or I'm strong with my voice. I know how to speak up, or my cutoff game is so strong, nobody will be able to do that to me again. Actively become the version of yourself that you feel you aspire to. I think that goes alongside with rising above those who have displayed certain behaviors to you, or who have perpetrated you in one way or another. Like, don't necessarily go with the road that's, even if it's the most popular thing to do is to be an asshole, a jerk, emotionally unavailable, etc. That's not necessarily the highest version of you that you should aspire to, right? It's not the highest version of you that you're going to be able to experience better versions of other people. And so it is necessary to stand out in the crowd by doing something that the crowd isn't doing. Where does healing take place? As you know, I am the owner and operator of the Lotus Shakti Healer, and on our logo we have healing starts within, and that's where we're going to start at. Healing starts within. Healing starts with self-compassion. Healing starts with self-love, self-forgiveness. Healing could also start with therapy, because that's fair, because sometimes being able to just vent and share how you are feeling about things helps tremendously to answer your own questions. Another place that, healing can come from is mentorship, having someone be an accountability coach. Since meeting with someone who I will consider my mentor, but they are also my friend, it has become for me so healing, because it's pushing me out of my own limitations. This is someone who is saying to me, you want to do this, you want to be on this journey, you want to achieve this and be known for this, you got to do it. I'm telling my friend her all my business, all my tea, because I trust her. And she's saying, like, why aren't you doing this? Like, I'm mad at you for not doing this. She's pushing me out of my comfort zone. And I'm telling you, I'm showing up so much differently because of it. And so mentorship is a huge part of where healing can come from. Another place where mentorship and therapy cannot go is in those subconscious energies that tarot can go. So I love tarot. You may have even seen on my community page or any other platform that you follow me on where I say therapy or tarot. I'm going to choose tarot every time, because you can only tell a mentor, you can only tell a therapist about things that you can mentally bring to the forefront of your mind. In the event that you cannot speak on those subconscious hurts, those subconscious variables that are still very much so present in your aura, in your, your mental conversations with yourself, tarot has the capability to allow a tarot reader to bring up these things from those places, and it allows them to let you know that this is what is going on. This is what is still in the atmosphere as it pertains to your aura, as it pertains to your decision making, and whatever it is that's showing up in your life. And it allows you to then take in consideration what needs to happen in order to, evolve past that point. Another part is where I think is very important, those chakras. We're talking about your energy field as a whole. These are very much so a part of what creates or holds on to dis-ease that ends up evolving into diseases. If your throat chakra is not operating at its most balanced point, people may see themselves experiencing thyroid problems. If your root chakra is not carrying at its most balanced point, now you're experiencing anxieties, perhaps depression. That's a crown chakra one. Heart chakra, your solar plexus, your sacral, chakra. Okay, all of these parts are so important to having a healed mindset, a healed physical body as well as spiritual body, because when they are balanced, they're operating, and you're operating and thinking and living and feeling and being your whole self. If they are out of balance or overactive, now you may be putting yourself in situations that are going to cause you to experience trauma, experience being used, experience sicknesses, experience times of missed opportunities, experience low self-esteem, experience things that you otherwise would not experience if you become whole and healed and sound. And so I don't ever want that to go over people's heads, because sometimes even if we are addressing certain things in other ways, when our chakras are still holding on to the trauma, when they're still out of balance because we haven't brought them back into balance, it is continuing the process of the trauma, of the hurt. And in a video that I have released, I said that I felt like people could consider me a fraud, a fake, when it comes to being self-proclaimed the Lotus Reiki healer, because I was experiencing a hard time that was debilitating. As far as my online presence, I was working and being the best mom that I absolutely am called and naturally am. However, I was not able to show up and be the motivational, positive, uplifting version of myself because I didn't have it within me. One of the things that helped me tremendously was chakra balancing, because my chakras, while I was continuing with life, my chakras were off, and it wasn't allowing me to feel whole. It wasn't allowing me to feel positive and confident, grounded, that I belonged or that I mattered. And so definitely don't let the chakras go over your head, because that one's huge. Sometimes sleep and, taking that space to disconnect from others, especially those who are not showing that they are good for your mental health, as well as your kids. If you get a chance, if you have support where you can drop your kids off and say, hey, I need to get right. And I hope that for everybody. Everyone deserves that. That's been a huge part for me in my life, and we'll go there in a story time. Once I feel confident in sharing that message and that story about, taking space from my children and becoming right, that's something I would definitely discuss. But rest is one of the best things that you can do, and to retract your energy, because you cannot pour out of an empty cup. You cannot help others when you're the one who needs help. And you're running on E. So most times, you need to get some space to yourself, where you and your thoughts are the only ones that you have to be responsible for. And then you can allow that to happen. Healing also starts in your spiritual beliefs. Whomever it is that you think about when you say a prayer, sometimes that's where that healing comes from as well, is being able to open up and break your own heart and just say, like, look, this ain't going well. Help me see it from a different perspective. Help me to, become whole. And then, like I said, take these steps into healing. I hope that this message has been so beneficial, eye-opening, and useful for you. I hope that you enjoyed this segment of How You Healing. And if you like this type of content, let me know in the comments. Like this video and share it with a friend, because we can all use some healing. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.